Welcome to OT Cyber from the plant floor up, a podcast focused on discussing the latest innovations and developments in the OT cybersecurity space. The podcast is powered by DYNICS and hosted by our CTO, Jeff Smith. Subscribe via iTunes, Spotify, or the DYNICS YouTube channel, or wherever you watch/listen to podcasts, and enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome to another episode of OT Cyber from the plant floor up. We have a special episode today where, typically Jeff Smith takes the mic as the host, but we're going to be passing the mic to our new team member, I guess the new-ish team member, the Chief Revenue Officer, Chris Gibbs. Welcome, Chris, back again on the podcast.
And on the podcast. Thank you very much, Jen, for being here.
Of course. Well, Chris, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, I will take it away. Thank you very much, Jen. So the purpose of this podcast, why it's a little different than the standard Jeff Smith from the Plant Floor Up podcast, is we wanted to tell the story of DYNICS, where we came from, what were how did the company get started? What did it build its foundation on? When Jeff joined it, why did he join it? And where are we going today? We know that we have end users, customers, and partners that know us for this, but not that, or know us for that, but not this. And that there's potential partners and potential customers out there that'll be beneficial for them to understand, the problems that we've been solving and what we've been building and who DYNICS is and where we're going. So with that, we've got Rob Grove, who's been with us even before the company started. I think Rob was with the company, and Jeff, who joined some years ago. And we're going to be talking to them today about DYNICS, who we are, where we get started, and where we're going. So that's the plan. And so with that, I'd like to introduce Rob Grove. Rob Grove's our VP of Sales. As I said, he's been with us since the foundation of DYNICS. Rob, why don't you give us a little bit about, when the company got started, what we did, what did you and Ed see, Ed Gadd, our CEO, VP, what problems did you see, and what did you develop for our end users?
Thank you, Chris. Yes, the company started in 1997, September 1997. And when we got started, you're correct in the fact that I started out with that. Actually, prior to joining the company, I joined the company as the first employee in November of 1998. And it was, what happened is, early on, we were just developing a product line and just coming up with a standard product line. And then an opportunity presented itself prior to me coming on board with DYNICS in May. It was probably in the spring of 1998 that we had an opportunity at a steel processing company to provide an enclosed workstation on a pedestal for all of their plants scattered throughout the Midwest. And at the time, most systems were all based on CRT, so they're kind of big and bulky. And we did as an engineer a solution for them. It was based on a 15-inch LCD, which was in its infancy at that time. And we engineered an enclosed computer system with a 15-inch LCD touchscreen on a pedestal, and basically gave them a turnkey system. That was really the customer that I would say put us on the map, so to speak. Like I said, during that time frame, we were still developing a standard product line. We had a lot of the design worked out, but this was the actual first application that we really deployed. And Ed and I actually did the startup on this job in May of 1998. So again, that was before I even really started with the company. I didn't really give you an introduction of, when I got into this business, but I got into the business in 1992. So I spent the first 6 years in distribution with 2 different industrial distributors prior to joining DYNICS. And I've been on the manufacturing side now for 26 years.
Yes. So you had the, the industry knowledge, the legacy, and you saw a need and a chance to be innovative that no one else was doing, no other vendors. And that's a great success story.
Correct. Yeah, I was actually
Go ahead.
correct. I was actually still working for a distributor at the time, and this opportunity, like I said, when this opportunity came in, it was it was it was for a complete solution, and some of the vendors that I represented at that time really couldn't just couldn't do this type of solution. So that's when Ed and I knew each other, and I connected with him, and we put together a solution. So yeah, it really turned out well. We deployed several systems throughout that steel processing company, and had them in operation for a long time. They've since upgraded those systems from the originals, but yeah, the original systems were in operation for quite a long time.
That's a great story. Where we are today, if you were to tell somebody, hey, and from that birth, if you will, we now have a product line that expands this. Tell us about the rest of it in how we develop those product lines.
Well, our early product line, was developed around modularity and serviceability. So one of the things that you got to understand at that time frame, there was several industrial computer companies based in the Ann Arbor, Saline area. There was Nematron, Zycom, Ann Arbor Technology. So we were kind of the new kids on the block. And since then, all those companies have been purchased. We actually purchased Ann Arbor Technologies in August of 2005. So, but we had to differentiate ourselves. And in order to do that, we had to do things a little differently than everybody else is doing. So we built a lot of modularity and serviceability into our product at the time. And from removable hard drive drawers to you could remove chassis from the computer, and you could literally kind of take the whole thing apart in a very short period of time. It was very serviceable. And we also focused on, turnkey solutions with enclosures, or maybe a customer just needed a slight change to a computer, like adding a few extra serial ports or an extra expansion slot or something along those lines. So we were able to always do some little custom twist to the computer to solve a customer's problem, where most companies just kind of had their standard offering, and it was kind of, you take it or you leave it.
Gotcha. And that continues to the day, correct?
And that continues today.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And then not only do we sell to the end user, we sell through distributors, through resellers, through integrators. How does that whole ecosystem look?
I guess we sell to both OEMs and end users, but our primary channel to market is through our distribution channel. And, we pride ourselves on having a really solid sales and distribution channel, not only in the US, but around the globe, throughout Asia and Europe. We have 30 plus distributors in the US and 15 plus globally, or outside the US, should I say. So that really has contributed to a lot of our success. We have a really, really solid distribution channel.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And so that kind of talks about what got DYNICS on the map and has brought us through, the 20 teens, if you will, into the 2020s. Jeff, you came over 2017, 2016? Tell us that story. How, A, tell us what it was that brought you to DYNICS, and then B, what you brought with you to DYNICS and how you developed that.
So I started at DYNICS in 2017, March of 2017. I was actually, for most of my career, I was an end user with a large multi-billion-dollar tier one supplier in the automotives. And my responsibilities were all of the plant floor control standards, from the PLCs, the ladder logic, safety circuits, all the clickety-clack panel designs, through plant floor switching, networks, data collection, pretty much everything up until the point where it hit the IT group's IDF. And during that time, I looked for a lot of products to solve problems, and we went cold turkey Ethernet IP on the plant floor for controls field bus in 06, which was, to say the least, a bit ahead of anybody else at that point. There were very few people who were on the bleeding edge of Ethernet technology for a field bus and a control system. In the course of doing that, just identified a number of gaps in what was available from different software companies. And a lot of them, would have questions about what should we do next? How should we do it? And I really never could get anybody to do exactly what I wanted. So a lot of the technology that came with me to DYNICS started on the plant floor at my tier one, simply to answer the needs that I had that no one else seemed to be able to provide from a vendor perspective. So I stayed with them until I was there quite a few years. And in 2015, I left there and went to VP of strategy for a cloud services technology company that does a lot of moving data on the plant floor in and out of cloud space. In the course of that position, I worked and got to know Ed at DYNICS a little bit, and just seemed like, DYNICS was a good fit. I thought the values of the company, I was kind of tired of the $72 billion outfits, and I was just looking for something a little bit different. And so I jokingly suggested that one day. I said, you really need a CTO, and that CTO should be me. And much to my surprise, he said, yeah, I kind of agree with that. So it went from there. And when I came to DYNICS in 2017, some of the technology that I developed migrated to DYNICS, because I had kept the technology alive through some partners in another company we had started. And it just seemed like DYNICS was the best mechanism to deliver those products to the industrial space, because DYNICS is well embedded, well known, and well respected in that space. So in 2017, much of that IP became DYNICS, and we just continued to develop the products and enhance the capabilities and take them to market. And that's how we ended up where we are today.
That's great. But we have at DYNICS now, with the group that you're managing, the products you brought over, there's been growth and expansion and innovation there as well. We're not still just marketing, developing, and selling the products you brought over. Tell us about the new things that you've innovated on.
So, newer products they're, in some cases, they are complementary. So we have, a cybersecurity platform called the ICS 360 Defender platform, which is the current edition, if you will, or the current offering in some of the original technology. But one of the products we developed at DYNICS is a cybersecurity console. So, some of our customers have 150 of these cybersecurity appliances on the plant floor. And the cybersecurity console gives them an opportunity to manage all of those from a single interface and do a lot. Just makes the whole process of management easier. So there's the cybersecurity console. Another product we've developed is called IAM Defender, which is identity access management to control user access to PCs on the plant floor and control USB access. So it's got some really unique characteristics that you won't find in other products. And probably outside of the cybersecurity space, we've developed a product called ICS 360 Fusion. If you haven't picked up on the theme, most of the products that we're building for the industrial space is ICS, for industrial control system. So ICS 360. And ICS 360 Fusion is really a product that just moves data. So it moves data to and from the plant floor, across the plant floor. It's omnidirectional. It's very, very scalable. It can be, clustered server based or very small and a very tiny, we've got a customer that runs them on their small cellular modem in a container. So it's very flexible. It has dashboarding capabilities built into it. It really just takes the coding out of moving data, where so many people are tired of. There's products out there, and I don't want to bash them, but one of the things I hear about people that use the product all the time is how much code they have to write to get anything done. If they didn't have somebody who knows how to write code, which that's really not in the wheelhouse of most plant floor OT controls folks, it can be a real uphill struggle. And Fusion seeks to eliminate all of that and does a pretty good job, actually.
There's the question I should have asked you before I asked you about, the tool set that we have, the products that we have, is you innovated when you were on the plant floor, putting Ethernet IP in on the plant floor pretty much before anybody else. And then you developed your initial products while you were still at that facility, with that company. And then you brought them to a vendor to bring to market. Do you see, do the needs and requirements and objectives of that person who is now in your role at all the other plants globally, worldwide, manufacturing, critical infrastructure, have those requirements changed? Or has your ability to understand what they need changed? Or are you still in tune with what they're trying to do on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, it's a kind of a bit of a loaded question. The answer is, well, absolutely. Of course I am. And, I would say it's actually true. I'm generally pretty much in touch with the challenges and the struggles. Number one, we started down those roads a few years before anybody else did. So there are some folks who don't even, they're at the point where they understand they need some OT cybersecurity, but they really don't know what yet or how to go about it. Or, they don't know what they don't know, which is something I'm fond of saying, I suppose. But I'm in enough meetings with customers and talking to people that are on the plant floor that I get a lot of positive feedback that I understand and that I understand where they're coming from and what their pain is. And, it's something as simple as talking about how well drawings get kept up to date on the plant floor and panels, right? It's usually a good chuckle point because everybody knows they don't. They rarely ever get redlined. If they do get redlined, they never get updated. It's just the nature of the beast. Things like we had a customer here recently who was looking to deploy a proof of concept, actually one of your customers, Chris Matthews. And, one of the things that most of the folks that we were talking to didn't think about was, well, has anybody gone out and looked at the control panels to make sure that we have proper 24-volt power supplies that can handle the additional equipment we're going to put in those panels? So there's a lot of indications, and I know I still have a lot of contacts and I still have a lot of people in that end of the business that are end users that bounce ideas off me and use me as a reference point that I'm reasonably comfortable in saying I'm pretty well in touch with the challenges they're facing today still.
Right. Which, you're right. It was a tee-up question because of course you are. And how do you...
It's even been known to help customers with their cycle time.
That is true. Yeah, that's another story where we were deploying our equipment to help protect the line. And when we got it all installed and protecting that line, we then Jeff went about making that line more efficient so that they could produce even more. All right. Well, now, Rob, coming back to you, hearing what Jeff said, where do you see the vision of the direction of where DYNICS is going in the future? How do you see the future of how DYNICS can help its customers and partners?
Well, certainly the software, cybersecurity, and the software part of our business is the future. Cybersecurity is all the buzz today, and it's only in its infancy in the industrial market. So I feel like we're really poised to capture a lot of market share in the industrial OT cybersecurity segment of the business. So I think software is definitely going to be our future.
What I see, we've got a great base with the hardware line, which isn't going anywhere. We're continuing that. We manufacture our stuff. We have the capabilities that segment of the business will continue to expand and continue to grow. And that cyber, to what you're saying, that's why a lot of vendors, company people are coming to this market, is because there is potential growth. It's relatively greenfield, if you will. Jeff, where do you see the future of DYNICS helping our end user customers and our partners?
Well, I think, to your question of a moment ago, the conversation that Ed and I have always had is that we'd like to see the cybersecurity software side of the business, obviously continue to grow. It has been growing very well for us in the past couple of years, but really we'd like it to get to the point where, it's maybe 60% of the company's revenue or 50/50, 60/40. But that doesn't mean that the rest of our business interests, like the hardware development we do, both standardized and custom, all of that needs to continue to grow as well. And obviously, a large part of our success on the cybersecurity side is due to the fact that we have this outstanding product that runs on hardware that DYNICS creates. So it's a marriage of the two. It's software that's enabling the cybersecurity out on the plant floor on a panel. But if you can't put it on a piece of hardware that's, industrial, rugged, reliable, then you really don't have it's kind of like I always joke with my mechanical brethren that they talk about that, my machine costs $10 million and controls is $1 million of it. And I always say, yeah, without my $1 million of controls, yours is just $10 million of useless metal all piled up and hooked together. And same thing is true. We have a great platform, but without the rest of the complementary products that DYNICS creates, and in this case, hardware, it really would devalue our ability to reach the market and support the market the way we have. So the whole of DYNICS needs to continue to grow, but I think largely we expect that the software and the cybersecurity side will at some point, given it's just in such high demand and our products are just that good, that it's going to probably outpace the growth of the hardware at some point. Hasn't yet, but we're closing on that. So,
Yep, Jeff, exactly. Kind of took the words right out of my mouth. I was ready to say that, and then you said it very well. I mean, the hardware side of our business is definitely a huge part of the cybersecurity because we manufacture all the ICS Defender security appliances, in-house and in hardware, and will continue to do so. And so, yeah, hardware is a big part of the cybersecurity end of it, as well as software products such as ICS 360 Fusion.
One thing that jumped out at me, I came over to DYNICS from traditional IT cybersecurity. And I did it because when I first met Jeff, when I met you and we worked on that rapid prototyping event together to protect a, fictitious factory, my tool at that time with that company, protected the IT side and DYNICS protected the OT and the manufacturing piece. But what I've learned since I've got here, and I kind of have a question for you guys on this, is that in many companies, cyber is an IT function and not an OT function. And yet we have a tool set that is made, to help protect the plant, whether it could be, critical infrastructure manufacturing or whatnot. For an OT plant manager who might not have cyber, our tools still provide a lot of, I'm teeing this up for you, but protection and control, even if they're not the cyber related piece to the puzzle. This is what I've seen in the, couple months that I've been here. What would you say to that plant manager who says, hey, you know what? I don't have cyber responsibility, but I've got plant and control and network responsibility. How can your tools help me? What would you say to them, Jeff?
Who are you asking?
Jeff, I'm asking you, what would you say to somebody who manages a plant floor, but might say that, within their wheelhouse with corporately, cyber is an IT function, not an OT function, but yet we're calling our tool sets cybersecurity. Are they truly only cybersecurity, or do they have a value that any plant manager could utilize?
Yeah. I mean, it's cybersecurity, and that's an important part of what people are doing on the plant floor today. There are too many bad actors out there that continue to prove that to be true. But I think just visibility into knowing what's on the floor, our products provide visibility into what is actually on the floor versus what isn't on the floor, what's talking to what. So visibility is key. Control is key. So we've got a customer who recently had a problem with some OT networks going down, and they don't really know why. Our products, it prevent that, and also will give you great visibility into what's going on. So it takes a lot of the mystery out of those. If it doesn't prevent something, it certainly takes the mystery out of what happened, so that it's much easier to understand why it happened and what to do to prevent it in the future. So,
And I just want
IT
to clarify.
understands the IT space, but they don't necessarily always understand the OT space.
And I want to clarify one thing. The networks that keep going down are in plants that our equipment hasn't been deployed to yet. Just thought I would clarify that.
Yeah, our hardware is not in those facilities as yet, but for better or for worse, those types of events seem to accelerate the interest.
All right. Any closing thoughts? I think we're running into probably a good amount of time here. Jeff, I'll let you go first, then Rob, and then we'll end it.
I don't really have any closing thoughts. Cybersecurity is an ongoing conversation. It's probably not something that we'll run out of things to talk about. As technology advances, we have software-defined networking solutions for the OT space that pretty much nobody else does, that solve a lot of problems people have. We have very scalable solutions, and we have a lot of customers who, again, don't know what they don't know. So, cybersecurity is I hate to be a little cliche when I say it's a journey, it's not a destination, but, when you're trying to put cybersecurity on the plant floor or protect your control systems and your ability to manufacture, the first 80% is easy. The last 20% is tough, but it's something you always keep working towards. It's just a matter of figuring out, what keeps me up at night and how do I approach solving that problem.
Rob, any closing thoughts on your point about how DYNICS will continue to help our customers and partners in our ecosystem?
I would say, in closing thoughts, kind of thinking about this podcast, it's, about the history of DYNICS. I think back on how far we've come from, the very first day of the business to where we had no customers and we had no product line, to here we are in 2023. And, we're just to see where the company's grown to. We have, 70 plus employees, and we're on specifications at some major automotive companies and major food and beverage companies. To where we're going, it's very exciting to see just from where the company has come from to where it is today, and to where we're going. Because I think the best times are ahead yet for this company, and it's just great to be a part of it. And I look back on it and could have never imagined this 26 years ago, especially living through a lot of hard economic times along the way in the infancy of the company. But yeah, it's very exciting to see where things are right now and where we're going. So I think we had a great future.
Yeah, well, I absolutely agree with that. It's one of the reasons why I joined DYNICS. It's DYNICS' continual ability to develop products that solve problems for the industry, and they do it in an effective and efficient, a cost-effective way. All right, there we go, and that's a wrap.